Okay, we are here with our next stranger. Hello. So I only ask kind of one question in the beginning that's set, which is, what is your name, and tell us a little about yourself.
Well, my name is Ivy, and I'm still a student, and I Twitch stream and play video games for fun, and I'm also a very frequent user of 4chan, which is kind of sad.
Of what is it? Four channel?
4chan, yeah.
Oh, fortune.
4chan.
What is that? I have no idea what that is. Never heard of that.
It's like, how do I describe this? Uh, it's like boards, and I use the advice board a lot, which basically anybody can post whatever situation they're in, and people can reply with all sorts of different advice, stuff like that.
Oh,
And there
interesting.
are also different boards, like there's like a politics board where it's like people post about politics. There are like different threads and stuff.
So it's kind of like Reddit, I guess, right? Similar.
Yeah,
Hmm.
like Reddit,
Cool.
except I guess it's less filtered in a way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. So what got you into gaming, into Twitch streaming?
Well, when I was younger, my brother had like a pretty nice PC, and I would always watch him play Maple Story. I don't know if you heard of it. It's like a really old anime style game. And when I first got my computer, I like learned about Steam. Like, I think my first game was Brawlhalla. It was free because I was
Cool.
broke. Yeah, I was a very broke kid. So,
Aren't we all?
yeah. And how I got into streaming is I actually was talking to this person who streamed. He streamed for like 2 years, and he had like a really nice small community. It's not that small, but it's like a tight knit community, and everybody was super welcoming. They would give subs to like every newcomer and stuff.
Wow.
It's really nice. Um, and I kind of like thought to myself, wow, I want to build that sort of community. So, I tried, and first stream, I think it went pretty well for a first stream, like an average of 2 or 3 viewers, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it was okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And how is it going now? Like, what is so this is round number two for you, right?
Round number two?
Oh, sorry. Oh, or you're saying that. Sorry, I thought that you said that that you've tried doing Twitch streaming twice, or is this is your first time doing it?
This is kind of my first time doing it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how do you get like how do you get Twitch followers, like subs? What is your
Well,
strategy?
I can't have subs yet because I'm not affiliated. Affiliated? I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Yeah, affiliated, huh?
Yeah. So, how I get followers, I guess I just like try to be as entertaining as possible. If they like it, they'll follow. If they don't, it's fine. At least there's somebody in chat actually like enjoying stream or something.
Would you be able to put your Twitch like tag or link here? Maybe people watching this would be interested in following you.
Yeah, of course.
I can put that in the description below as well if you can't read it now. Okay. It's Baby Lou.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put that in the description below. So, I'm guessing you're in school right now, or I guess during it's the summer. Um, what has that experience been like for you? Do you like school?
School is okay. I go to a decently competitive school, so it can be stressful at times, but try to de-stress a lot and kind of work pretty hard, spend time with friends. It's not that bad after a while. You get used to it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, when it's kind of like all you of course you go and you just kind of go through the motions. I'm guessing, right?
yeah.
Um, Interesting. Yeah, do you go to a pretty diverse school in terms of like socioeconomic or racial?
Well, racially, it I think there's like a 30% like Indian and other Asians, and then go 2% black or Hispanic, and then it's like the rest white. So I would say it needs some work for like racially, and definitely like this where I live and the whole school, it seems like everybody there is like upper middle class, probably a little bit
Ah.
higher. So yeah,
What state are you in? My guess would be the West Coast.
East Coast, Massachusetts.
Oh, you were the first person on here from Massachusetts.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Massachusetts. Okay. Huh. Yeah, that does not sound very diverse. How do you think, how has your community kind of handled the Black Lives Matter protests and all of that stuff? Are you kind of cued into that?
Well, I don't think that. Okay, so there have been protests here, and they're very small, but you know they're trying. But the town did not necessarily listen to the protests. They actually put more funding into police. They actually put down like 1 point something million on police shooting range materials like the
Kidding me?
day
Yeah.
after the
Are you
protests.
kidding me? Oh. Uh, it's like exactly what we don't want. At least from my perspective. I don't know. What
Yeah.
do you have any opinions on all this stuff?
I think obviously Black Lives Matter is important and everything, but I'm not saying like get rid of all funding for police. I'm saying like we should change how they're doing things. Like I think they only how many months of training do they need to become a police officer? Like only a couple months, right? Less than being a chef, which is not okay. I'm saying they should obviously spend more time in training so they don't, end up being put in like situations they don't know how to handle, which causes a lot of issues, obviously. And it should be a lot more community based instead of like, you know, government type things. Because
Mm-hmm.
they should really form like connections with the people who they're supposed to be protecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very astute thought. Um, what about with like education? Like, do you think like the way that your school is set up is optimal? Do you think like the way that education is run is done well, or do you think it can be improved? And if so, how?
Oh, it can so be improved. Oh my god.
Yeah, bring
Uh,
it, bring it. Tell us, tell everyone.
okay, so my school system, right? They they try to manage like how competitive it is, but it has not worked. Oh, there are police.
Oh, they're coming for you.
Oh no.
Twitch streamer.
Okay. They have tried to manage like the stress of being like a competitive school and like the stress of the students. Kind of. They like put up signs and it's like, "Oh, come de-stress in this room during like this specific block that happens 2 times a week." And I don't think it really does much because every year there's like a student that kills themselves out of like stress
Really?
here,
Wait, in
like
your high school?
consistently. Yeah, consistently, like every year.
There's like a suicide every year in your school?
Yeah, on average, yeah.
Oh my God. That's like
It's
not,
it's not okay.
my
I think
God.
it's slowly getting better now because a couple years back there were like so many bomb threats to the school. It I think a lot of it's because of students trying to get out of school because obviously if they get out of school they can finally have some free time, have a break from studying and stuff. It's awful. But, it leads to kind of like a divide. Students who kind of given up, and then the really like successful type students, and they all end up, not all, but a lot of the students here get into pretty good schools because of like the nature of the school, obviously.
Is
But
it
there's
is it a
also,
private school? Are you in a private
it's
school?
not a private school,
Okay.
and
But it's
but
probably like on the same level, right? Because Massachusetts public education is great, and if you live in a good upper class neighborhood, then it's definitely good. So yeah, you're probably one of the best schools in the country, if I had to guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it also leads to like a sort of problem because the students who are good, they are very good, but there's also that, I think it's like every high school, but the students who aren't as good tend to be like, how do I explain this? They really don't care about school. They're just given up
Mm.
and they kind of just, I don't know. I don't really know if they're completely like if they completely given up or
Or maybe they just don't
trying.
maybe they just don't prioritize like the system or grades. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. There's also kind of a drug problem, but I wouldn't say it's like too out of ordinary. Every high school had their drug problem,
Well,
no matter
interesting.
how old one
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Could you kind of I was just talking to a guy yesterday from Georgia, where the normal drug problem there was cocaine and meth. So
Oh,
yeah. So I mean, that's. Could you define normal in your circumstance?
it's usually like weed or sometimes like wait acid, but that's not as common. It's normally like weed and stuff.
Okay, interesting. So so with education, the first thing that kind of comes to mind for you is that the students are highly stressed and anxious, and that leads to some people committing suicide every year.
Yeah.
That do you think that's more of a familial pressure? Do you think it's where do you think it's probably multiple different factors, but where do you what do you think?
I think it's a big part of it is pressure from other students. That's probably like the driving force of everything. You know, the students are naturally competitive, and their parents also put a lot of pressure on those students. So they can't really help but compare.
So where do you stand in all of this? Like, are you what do you think of grades? What do you think of? Have you been bullied? Like, what is the social scene for you? And yeah, just your honest feedback on that.
Honestly, I'm pretty detached from this community. I I have been picked on, but not like full on bullied or like pushed out, I guess. But I definitely try to avoid most people I come across in this town.
Could you
Not
explain why? Yeah, could you
they're
explain
not
why?
like bad people, but a lot of them fit like the stereotype of rich kids, kind of like rich snobby kids. But I, okay, for me, I'm definitely like middle class, like middle class, but I did not grow up middle class for a while. So when I see them just like being that stereotype, which I always looked up to, and being kind of like condescending sometimes, I don't really like associating with them in that sense. I know they don't mean to because that's how they grew up. They always grew up upper middle class or a little bit higher. But like it doesn't seem right at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah. It's like if you, yeah, that doesn't, that kind of being dealt that hand of cards does not give you the excuse to be unaware of how you treat others, kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Did you kind of grow up more like working class and then your family eventually like, you know, you have a little extra savings or something to be able to go on vacation and stuff?
Yeah, because my parents had me when they were very young, and I also have an older brother. So they didn't really have much money. They had to work every single day. I had to just stay at my grandparents' house every day. So up until I was like maybe 9 or 10, I didn't really have time with my parents because they were constantly working as like waitresses and restaurant work, cooks and stuff. It's not like good work. I mean, it's okay, but they had to save up a lot to get us where we are now.
Your parents are like very hardworking, like yeah, nose to the grindstone people that have yeah, have basically built themselves from nothing to something that's they're proud of.
Yeah, I actually really look up to them because they are they were illegal immigrants, right? So they came here in debt to people who, smuggled them. They're they got their green card now, but they had
Where
to
did they come from? Where are you? What
they
country?
came from China.
Okay.
So my mom was, I think, 17, and my dad came a little bit later. He was 20 something. I don't know how old. So my mother was in debt. She had to go to a relative's house and worked in their restaurant nonstop. And when she met my dad, uh, they had to stay in an apartment, apparently, like a small room with like four other people. And they tried to save as much money as they could by like eating like tiny bits of food. Like it's not healthy, but you know, they did what they could, and they kind of just built themselves up by like saving. It's mostly saving because they were kind of like paycheck to paycheck. Um, but obviously, skipping out definitely paid off because yeah,
Wow. That's what a cool story. That's yeah. I mean, real like I think something that's really important for people to understand is that like where you come from, like everyone's story is important. Like your story about like going to this school that is like kind of full of posers and like uh like more or less rich snobs like that and also kind of like talk like hearing about like the Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. It's yeah, everyone's perspective is important, I think, and yeah, it's not normal to go to a high school where people kill themselves every year. That's just not normal.
Yeah.
or at least it shouldn't be, right? I one more question. As an Asian woman, do you ever consider yourself a person of color, or is that kind of not how you associate?
Uh, yeah, I would consider myself a person of color, but obviously there are different groups of people of color, so I can't relate to many of the issues that the black community has faced. But it's in the same way which they can't relate to what the Asian community has faced, and so on.
Could could you talk a little bit about, I mean, these days, Black Lives Matter is taking up a lot of media attention, and rightfully so. I mean, certainly the things that have been happening in the black community is atrocious. Um, do you have any thoughts on kind of the Asian American experience and um, you know, what some things that may be important for people to know that they may not?
Well, even though we're all people of color, I see a lot of Asian Americans not sticking up for Black Lives Matter when they should be, because they have black community has some of the struggles that we have to face too. So we should be sticking up for them because it's the right thing, you know? And it's also like the other way where sometimes the black community would deem something not offensive to Asians, even though it's not their place to deem not offensive. So, something important to know is that um, even if like they're not part of the same community, right? It's also important to stick up for them too. And you can't deem something to be okay if you don't know what it's like.
Yeah,
So,
great. Great, Ivy. Yeah. Yeah. Any last thoughts or comments that maybe you have kind of crossed your mind through this conversation that you'd like to share, or something that you think other people don't know that is important for them to know?
no, I don't think so. All
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Cool.
right.
That's pretty much it. If you want to, if you're interested in sending a picture over for the thumbnail for the video, this is the email again for it.
Okay.
And yeah, and if you're interested in kind of checking out some other videos of mine, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. So yeah, so you can kind of see some of these interviews are just fascinating. Everyone's is interesting. Yeah, it's a place where we can kind of learn about each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So cool. Okay. Well, have a good one. Okay.
You too.
All right. See you later. Bye. Oh, she's cool. All right. I think that's it for the day.